I want you guys to look at this. You know, in the Vietnam War, of the 58,209 American deaths in the Vietnam War, 10,000 were non-combat related, right? And 11% of these, which is about almost 6,000, were from booby traps. How many men? Look, 1,207 men died from drowning and suffocation. 482 died from illness. 118 died from malaria. 42 died from having a stroke, a heat stroke. These are young boys, right? 22 died from hepatitis. 382 committed suicide. And that's understandable. Think about it. You're out there, you're paranoid. I think the average tour duty was 18 months, right? Think about that. Some came down with Agent Orange, illness from exposure to Agent Orange. And that's 132 from misadventure. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Look at that. So just look at these numbers, you know? This is a hellhole. This was a hell zone for these guys, man. Look what they had to go through. You 19 years old, you from Detroit. One day you at your mama's house, next thing you know, you in a jungle in Southeast Asia, walking through this with people shooting at you. Look at this. They're waiting for a helicopter to come get them. You got dead bodies of people, injured men moaning. This is what these soldiers had to deal with. You know, and this is I guess these are the rice paddies, I believe. But imagine walking in this. One other issue that they had, man, was keep trying to keep their feet dry. Okay? So you're walking through this all the time. Your feet are wet. You begin to develop like issues with your feet, you know, because they're wet all day. So you got to take your socks off. Every time you get out of this water, you got to take your socks off, dry your feet off, put some dry socks back on, which most of them kept in their helmets, and then when you get back to dry land, keeping in mind your enemy could be anywhere. You know, imagine that, man. Then on top of that, you got dead bodies, you got people getting shot, you surrounded by war. You know, everybody looks like the enemy. This is what these guys are dealing with, right? So I just wanted you some of you guys are the same age as some of these guys were when they were fighting this war, right? Everybody looks like the enemy. Anybody of fighting age, any Vietnamese man of fighting age was a potential enemy combatant, right? And then on top of that, what? You got little girls out there fighting against you. You see? Look at these two cats right here. Look how thick this terrain is in here. You can't see 10 feet ahead of you. Can you imagine that, being stuck in here for 18 months, more or less? This is what happened. So I say all that to lay a foundation so you can kind of understand what our Black soldiers had to deal with, you know, what they were really facing and what they overcame, not just to survive, but also to thrive, to end up being Medal of Honor recipients. Think about that, you know, think about that, what they had to do with the psychological barriers they had to overcome. Most of them city boys and country boys. You know what I mean? So and remember what they came home to, fellas. They came home to being spit on. They came home to disrespecting them. You see? So it's important that we acknowledge this, but as I always say, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to talk about Sergeant, first one up here tonight. And, you know, just guys, make sure you check in. Again, I want to give an acknowledgement to Broken Blade, Volcanus. Thank you so much. The link, the Cash App is here. You guys, this is the labor of love. So show your appreciation through the Super Chats, the Cash App, and the PayPal. You guys wanted it. But this is masculinity that we're talking about here. All right. Now, the first person I want to bring up here is this gentleman, and his name is Sergeant Melvin Morris. Okay, he's a Medal of Honor recipient. Morris was born in I can't even say this word, Okmulgee, Oklahoma, 1942. So he's a baby boomer. And a little bit about him. Morris entered the Oklahoma Army National Guard in 1959. Okay. So he was 17 at the time and later requested to join the active army. He became one of the first soldiers to don the Green Beret at the command of President John F. Kennedy, Fort Bragg, North Carolina in 1961. Morris volunteered twice for deployments in Vietnam. So this man did 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. And correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, but tours of duty in Vietnam was 18 months. So this man did 18 months in Vietnam. Melvin was recognized for his valorous actions on September 17, 1969, while commanding the 3rd Company. Now, mind you, he's a Green Beret, okay? And now he's commanding the company, 3rd Company, 3rd Battalion of the 4th Mobile Strike Force near Chi Minh. Then Staff Sergeant Morris led an advance across the enemy lines to retrieve a fallen comrade and single-handedly destroyed an enemy force that had pinned his battalion from a series of bunkers. Staff Sergeant was shot 3 times as he ran back toward friendly lines with the American casualties, but did not stop until he reached safety. So he dragging somebody, right? And he running back, he gets shot, he keeps moving. This is him. Distinguished Service Cross was awarded to Sergeant Morris in April 1970 for his extraordinary heroism during the 1969 battle. After receiving the award, he returned to Vietnam the same month. Now, mind you, he'd been shot, right? He went back the same month for a 2nd tour. He retired at Fort Hood, Texas in May 1985. Morris currently resides in Cocoa, Florida. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit more details. This is him back in the day, right? Not a big man. This is him being awarded his Medal of Honor by former President Barack Obama. 2 tours of duty, fellas. Woo! Now, I want you guys to check this out, right? He served in the Morris appeared in spring 2019 issue of American Battlefield Trust magazine, writing about a visit to Fort Wagner near Charleston, South Carolina, where Sergeant William Harvey Carney earned his Medal of Honor while serving with the 54th. And we read about him before, fellas. I don't know if we have, but if we have it, we need to. I'm gonna make sure I get that on our itinerary of things to do, because I think that's an important person to learn about. But the thing is, and I want to read this detail of what he did. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. Staff Sergeant Melvin Morris distinguished himself by acts of gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty while serving as commander of strike force drawn from Company D, 5th Special Forces Group Airborne, 1st Special Forces during combat operations against an armed enemy in the vicinity of Chi Minh, Republic of Vietnam on September 17, 1969. On that afternoon, Staff Sergeant Morris affiliated companies encountered an extensive enemy mine field, were subsequently engaged by hostile forces. So they got a minefield, they ran across a minefield. The enemy knew the minefield was there. So what they about to do? They about to start busting at them. That's basically what happened. So you're effed up either way you go. Staff Sergeant Morris learned by radio that a fellow team commander had been killed near an enemy bunker, and he immediately reorganized his men into an effective assault posture before advancing forward and splitting off with 2 men to recover the team commander's body. Observing the maneuver, the hostile force concentrated its fire on Staff Sergeant Morris' 3-man element and successfully wounded both men accompanying him. After assisting the 2 wounded men back to his force's lines. So here's what's going on. One of the commanders got Americans, what do they do? We don't leave any man behind, black, white, brown, whatever. If you got green on, if you're a Army, Marine, whatever you are, we're going to go get your body and we're going to bring you home. Just in case you're not dead, but even if you are, we're going to bring you home and send you home to your family. This is the mantra. So for these three men to risk their life to go retrieve that body, the enemy already knew that. So the two guys he brought with him, what happened? They both got shot. And so what did he do? He dragged them back to the other side, dragged them back to safety, where the safest can be. And then he pushed forward to go get this commander's body. Staff Sergeant Morris charged forward into withering enemy fire with only his men suppressive fire covering him. So now he's in the situation, cover me. I'm rushing in. So his guys start shooting at the enemy, which makes them duck because they don't want to get shot. And then what he does is he rushes straight into him while enemy machine gun continuously directing strafing fire against him. Staff Sergeant Morris destroyed the positions with a hand grenade and continued his assault, ultimately eliminating 4 bunkers. So let me explain to you what just happened. This one man rushed the enemy bunker under cover fire, got close enough to him to blow up the machine gun nest, and then did that 4 more times. So he got right up on the enemy and dropped some grenades on them and blew up all their bunkers, basically saving all these men. This is the act of heroism that you see from this man. Upon reaching the bunker nearest the fallen team commander, Staff Sergeant Morris repulsed the enemy, retrieved his comrade, and began an arduous trek back to friendly lines. He was wounded 3 times as he struggled forward, but ultimately succeeded in returning his fallen comrade. So basically, he got shot 3 times trying to drag the guy's body, trying to drag his comrade's body back to safety. Staff Sergeant Morris' extraordinary heroism and selfishness above and beyond the call of duty are keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. So let's take a good look at the brother right here. This is back when he was a young man. Now, mind you, keep in mind, this is the brother right here. This brother right here, this is not a big man, but that's a man. See, that's what masculinity looks like, fellas. That's the black man right there. All those big muscles and stuff like that. And you got a nice car and all that. The heroism demonstrated by this brother. This is what I want you to keep in mind. Got the heart of a lion. This is who we're dealing with. Not willing to leave a comrade behind. So again, that's Sergeant Melvin Morris, Sergeant First Class Melvin Morris. He's actually still alive, and he's over in, last I checked, he was living in Florida somewhere, according to this. And so that's Melvin Morris. That's him, back when he was a young man. And I think I have a photograph of him. Well, no, that's him. Yeah, that's him right there. Oklahoma. Shout out to Oklahoma. All right, so next up, we want to talk about this brother. His name is Private First Class Milton Lee Olive, right? And if you guys appreciate this, hit the number 1 button. Let me know you're still in here. We got 11 people in the chat room. Ain't nobody trying to hear about this. You guys don't want to. Anybody who's here now is because you're dedicated. You like the series, you make sure you contribute to the super chat. And we have to appreciate, like I talked earlier about the World War I veterans when they came back. And because they came back with their back straight, standing up straight, acting like men, you know, white folks got to the point, we got to put these black men back in their place. This is what happens when black men begin to respect themselves and stand up for themselves and become fighting men and develop that warrior mentality. This is what happened here. You see? You can't go from being somebody who runs back under cover fire. You can't be a scared Negro after that. You see? You can't be a Melvin Morris, Sergeant Melvin Morris, Green Beret. You can't be a scared Negro. So by the time he got back to America, he wasn't going for it. Same for all his other soldiers and Marines and sailors. This is what they do. You know? This is who they were. So let's talk about Milton Lee Olive III. He was born November 7, 1946, died on October 27, 22nd, 1965. His young brother was 20 years old. Well, he was 19 years old, apparently. He was a United States Army soldier and recipient of America's highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor, for his actions in Vietnam. At the age of 18, Olive sacrificed his life. He was 18, y'all. At the age of 18, Olive sacrificed his life to save others by falling on a grenade. He was the first African-American recipient of the Medal of Honor for the Vietnam War. This brother right here, first black man. He was the first black man to receive the Medal of Honor. Guess where he was from? Well, from Chicago. Shout out to Chicago. Look at that. But apparently his parents and folk were from Mississippi. Olive joined the Army from his birth city of Chicago, Illinois in 1964. In 1965, was serving as a private first class in Company B of the 2nd Battalion, Airborne. So he's airborne. He's jumping out of planes. 503rd Infantry Regiment, 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam. On October 22nd, 1965, while moving through the jungle, and I showed you what that jungle looked like, fellas. I showed you what that jungle looked like. When they wasn't running, they were moving slow while moving through the jungle, and everybody's in close quarters, right? So if you don't jump on the grenade, 8 or 9 people might die. He jumped on the grenade and saved these guys while moving through the jungle with 4 fellow soldiers in Phu Shong. Olive sacrificed his life by smothering an enemy grenade. Man, shout out to Choo Choo. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Choo Choo, and thank you, Toot Red. You guys make sure y'all contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the play. He smothered an enemy thrown grenade with his body. You know you're gonna die. Think about this. You love the men next to you so much, and you feel so honor bound to your duty that you jump on a grenade knowing you're going to die. But you do it for the love and respect and admiration you have for the men next to you. And oftentimes those men next to him were other black men, because they would send the brothers off by their goddamn selves. Going over there, y'all go. So this is what happens. This is the Bloods. This is what I'm talking about, man. This brother was 18 years old. Don't let them tell you black men don't build. Black men don't sacrifice. You remind them of Milton Olive III from Chicago. Next time they start talking about Chicago, you say, well, you know, Milton Lee Olive III is from Chicago. Who is that? He was the first black man to win the Medal of Honor in Vietnam. 1965, threw himself on a grenade, saved 4 of the military men. He did it for his brothers. Y'all make sure y'all talk about what this 18-year-old, when they start talking about 18-year-olds from Chicago, you tell them about Milton Olive III, Milton Lee. Y'all remember that, Milton Lee Olive III. You tell them about that. He saved 4 fellow soldiers. And he was awarded the Medal of Honor for that. At a ceremony on the steps of the White House in 1966, President LBJ presented Olive's Medal of Honor to his father and stepmother. Also in attendance were 2 of the 4 men whose lives were saved by Olive's actions. Olive's body was returned to the United States and buried at West Grove Cemetery in Lexington, Holmes County, Mississippi. Olive was born in Chicago, but left as a young boy living in Lexington, Mississippi, where he finished high school. So he moved back to Mississippi. So a lot of people moved to Chicago and Illinois. His people moved back down to Mississippi. So we're going to read a little bit more. I want to know exactly what he did. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Olive was a member of the 3rd Platoon of Company B as it moved through the jungle to find the Viet Cong operating in the area. Although the platoon was subjected to heavy volume of enemy gunfire and pinned down temporarily, it retaliated by assaulting the Viet Cong positions, causing the enemy to flee. As the platoon pursued the insurgents, Private First Class Olive and 4 other soldiers were moving through the jungle together when a grenade was thrown into their midst. Private First Class Olive saw the grenade and then saved the lives of his fellow soldiers at the sacrifice of his own by grabbing the grenade in his hand and falling on it to absorb the blast with his body. Damn. Though his bravery, unhesitating actions, and complete disregard for his safety, he prevented additional loss of life or injury to the members of his platoon. Private First Class Olive's extraordinary heroism at the cost of his own life above and beyond the call of duty are in the highest traditions of the U.S. Army and reflect great credit upon himself and the armed forces of his country. Remember, there was a time, Toot Trap. Remember, there was a time when we were talking about how the military, they didn't want to let black folks in, even though we had fought in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the War of 1812, Civil War. They were still saying black men didn't know how to operate under fire. Remember that? I was reading that stuff to you. Black men, they don't know how to, they're going to crack under pressure. Remember that? Now look at this. Look at this Medal of Honor, this black man. I mean, think about that. This is another picture of Milton. 18-year-old combat veteran. He became a battlefield legend. Look at this, man. This is him. That's Milton, 18-year-old Milton. And it says here, Olive and 4 others, including the platoon commander, were quietly, steadily pursuing one band of Viet Cong through the tangled growth. And I'll let you guys look at that. Suddenly, one of the enemy turned and threw a hand grenade into the middle of the platoon. Olive dashed forward. So he ran forward he saw the grenade, ran to the grenade. He didn't run away yelling, "I've got it." He tucked it into the middle and moved away from the others, falling on the grenade and absorbing the full blast. It was the most incredible display of selfless bravery I've ever witnessed, the platoon commander later told the journalist. Milton Olive's sacrifice saved his comrades' lives. In his death, he has become an inspiration to many of his fellow Chicagoans who have further commemorated Medal of Honor winners' life and courage by naming a junior college, a park, and a portion of the McCormick Place Convention Center after the young African-American soldier. Can you imagine that, man? Look at that, man. That's a soldier. That's what you come from, brothers. This is what your uncles and your fathers did. This is the sacrifice that they made. So y'all remember that, man. You know, you remember what they did, man. You know, so I appreciate that, man. And to all my Chicago family, man, when they talking down on you, you remind them of Milton. You remind them of Milton Lee Olive III. Yeah. You remember that. You remember that. Now I want to talk about Captain Riley. Captain Riley Leroy Pitts. He was born October 15, 1937. He was a United States Army captain. Now, he was a captain in the military, okay? So what does that tell you? First of all, he's an officer. So this is an educated man, all right? So this is an officer in the military, he's a captain. This is who this was. Captain Leroy Pitts. So white boys had to salute him. On October 31st, 1967 is when he died. He was a United States Army captain and the first African-American officer to receive the Medal of Honor. The medal was presented posthumously by President Lyndon B. Johnson on December 10th, 1968 for actions in Ap Dong, Republic of Vietnam. So I want you guys to read a little bit about it. Okay, he was born in Oklahoma. Got another brother from Oklahoma, man. Oklahoma is coming back strong today. The Carolinas had it the other day. But Oklahoma, Detroit showed up. Y'all remember, big shout out to 50 Cal Hal. Big respect to 50 Cal Hal. Don't forget him. But Riley Leroy Pitts was born in Fallas, Oklahoma. He attended Wichita State University. You guys know anything about Wichita State? Huh? What y'all know about Wichita State? That's where he went to high school. He went to college at Wichita State. Mm-hmm. And he is a let me see something. I want to double check. Yeah, Wichita State is I'm trying to figure out a little bit about the location, but we'll deal with that under. But he went to Wichita State University and graduated in 1960 with a degree in journalism. So this is a well-read man, articulate man, well-spoken man. This is who Captain Pitts was. He married Eula Mae Pitts and had a daughter, Stacy, and a son, Mark, while employed with Boeing. So this man had a job, right? Mark became an active member of the organization Sons and Daughters in Touch, where he traveled to Vietnam to memorialize his father. Pitts is buried in Hillcrest Memory Gardens in Spencer, Oklahoma. So let's read a little bit about his career. After being commissioned as an officer in the United States Army, he was sent to Vietnam on December 1966. So he got there in December, y'all. And he died in October. He was there almost a year. Pitts had 7 years of service in the Army. In Vietnam, Pitts served as an information officer until he was transferred to combat unit. Right? He's an information officer. I just smell some politics in that. It just feels to me like you send a captain who's an information. You send a captain to the front lines. So that's some politics involved in that. Any of you guys in the military, you want to chime in on that? You sending a captain to a combat unit, a captain who is formerly what? An information officer? Think about that. I want you to think about that. As captain, he served as commander of Company C, 2nd Battalion, 27th Infantry, 25th Infantry Division. On October 31st, 1967, just 1 month before he was to be rotated back home, his unit was called upon to reinforce another company heavily engaged against a strong enemy force. So again, you got a captain who's administrative, who's an officer, and you an educator, an information officer. You know, he's dealing with paperwork and whatnot. You see what I'm saying? Think about that. Now, Devin is saying every infantry unit has one officer. But man, a captain, bro, a captain. But you know, I get it. Maybe you can come in later and explain this a little bit. After his company landed in an air mobile assault near AP Dome, several Viet Cong opened fire with automatic weapons. Captain Pitts led an assault which overran the enemy positions and was then ordered to move north to reinforce another company engaged against a strong enemy force. As his company moved forward, intense fire was received from 3 directions, including 4 bunkers, 2 of which were 15 meters of his position. His rifle fire proving ineffective against the enemy due to the dense foliage. Now remember that you shooting through these. You got all this shrubbery and foliage. You can't even. Your bullets don't even go through that. And for those of you guys who know anything about AR-15s, they don't necessarily have the heaviest bullets. Those of you, maybe somebody can come in and talk about that. But the AR-15, it rotates like that. You see what I mean? It don't necessarily go in a straight line. It spins when it's flying in the air. And so you hitting leaves, and so you losing all sort of traction. I'm gonna have to get one of my friends in here to talk about that. So this is what we're dealing with, you know. This is what he's dealing with, right? His rifle proving ineffective against the enemy due to the dense foliage, Pitts picked up an M79 grenade launcher and began pinpointing the target, seizing a grenade. Yeah, that's right. Bullets tumbles. Right, that's right. The bullets are tumbling. His rifle fire proving seizing a grenade. Okay, got that. Without hesitation, Pitts threw himself on top of. Okay, what? Damn, that happened. Seizing a grenade taken from a captured Viet Cong's web gear, he lobbed it in a bunker to his front, but it hit the foliage and rebounded. Without hesitation, Pitts threw himself on top of the grenade, which fortunately failed to explode. Hot damn. So look, this man, basically, Captain is in the middle of a firefight. He took one of the enemy's grenades. That damn grenade didn't work, right? It hit and came back, so he jumped on top of it. The thing didn't explode, right? He then directed and repositioned. Because he didn't want his men to get blown up, so he jumping on grenades. He then directed the repositioning of the company to permit friendly artillery to be fired. Upon completion of the fire mission, he again led his men towards the enemy positions, personally killing at least one more Viet Cong, displaying complete disregard for his personal safety. He maintained continuous fire, pinpointing the enemy's fortified positions, while at the same time directing and urging his men forward until he was mortally wounded. So let's read a little bit more about this, man. I want you guys to ride. Broken leg. Yeah, dumb luck, right? You know what I'm saying? But he still ended up dying in that battle, man. I guess, sometime when, it's meant to be. But I want to read a little bit more about this because I want some more details on this. And I hope we don't have any trolls in here. But look, if you guys got a wrench, man, get rid of the trolls. If there's some trolls in here, y'all have carte blanche. Anybody, if I trust you enough to give you a wrench, y'all just regulate. You see what I mean? Go ahead and regulate the chat room, man. Anything, people getting out of line, give them a little 5 minute. So send them on a 5 minute break. They can still watch. There's nothing wrong with that. Just go ahead and regulate. That's all you got to do. You know what I mean? It's nothing. We having a good time in here, man. Don't let anybody mess up our party. We talking about Black military men. The subject is very rarely ever highlighted. That's what I want us to do. I want us to begin to recognize the heroism of Black men, Black fighting men. They had to fight just to fight. You see what I mean? They had to fight just to get in the fight. This is what our Black military men had to do, man. You see what I'm saying? This is what they had to do. They were still being treated. Mind you, this is 1965. We just got out of desegregation officially. And this is what we're doing. And we're still willing to fight for our country. Fought in every major battle that the United States has ever been in. Wow, still having to fight for our freedom. Keep that in mind. Look at the complexity in which Black men, the circumstances we had to fight under. Make sure y'all get the likes up, man. We got 22 people in the chat room. This is just a fella sitting around talking, man. But let's talk about Captain Pitts. Distinguishing himself by exceptional heroism while serving as company commander during an air mobile assault. Immediately after his company landed in the area, several Viet Cong opened fire with automatic weapons. Despite the enemy fire, Captain Pitts forcefully led an assault which overran the enemy position. Shortly thereafter, Captain Pitts was ordered to move his unit to the north to reinforce another company heavily engaged against a strong enemy force. As Captain Pitts' company moved forward to engage the enemy, intense fire received from three directions, including fire from 3 enemy bunkers, 2 of which were within 15 meters of Captain Pitts' position. The severity of the incoming fire prevented Captain Pitts from maneuvering his company. His rifle fire proving ineffective against the enemy due to the dense jungle foliage, he picked up an M79 grenade launcher and began pinpointing the targets. Seizing a Chinese communist grenade, which had been taken from the captured Vietnam Cong's web gear, Captain Pitts lobbed the grenade at the bunker to his front, but it hit the dense jungle foliage and rebounded. Okay, so it's everywhere. You can't go now. So he throw the damn thing up, and the damn grenade comes back to him, right? And what did he do? My mistake, but what he was willing to die for. Talk about taking agency. Without hesitation, Captain Pitts threw himself on top of the grenade, which fortunately failed to explode. Captain Pitts then directed a repositioning of the company. So you under fire, okay, y'all, you hear blah, 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 right? All this under pressure, family, okay? Pitts he then directed a reposition the company to permit friendly artillery to be fired. Upon completion of the artillery fire mission, Captain Pitts again led his men toward the enemy positions, personally killing at least one more Viet Cong. The jungle growth still prevented effective fire to be placed on the enemy bunkers. Captain Pitts displayed, okay, so remember the foliage that these men had to deal with. This is the jungle, so you can't even really shoot. You can't even shoot because they're all in the jungle. You really don't know where they are. You see what I mean? You're surrounded. On all sides. You don't even have enough room to throw a grenade at somebody. You see what I'm saying? This is what they are around. And I'm gonna pull up a photograph because I want you to kind of get a picture of what they were dealing with, and hopefully a color photograph. I want you to look at this. This is where we at. Okay, this is the foliage. This is what they're looking at. This is Vietnam jungle. That's the Vietnam jungle in there. You know, it's all packed up. Look at the brother right there, man. You don't look happy. But this is what is going on in here. So Captain Pitts then directed to reposition the company to permit friendly artillery to be fired. So he moved them out the way so that they could, call back in, get some radio support, get some fire. The jungle growth still prevented effective fire to be placed on the enemy bunkers. Captain Pitts, displaying complete disregard for his life and personal safety, quickly moved to a position which permitted him to place effective fire on the enemy. He maintained continuous fire, pinpointing enemies' fortified positions, while at the same time directing and urging his men forward until he was mortally wounded. Basically, he got right up on him and started shooting them. This is what he did. He got right up on him and directed his men forward, pinpointing the enemy. He maintained a continuous fire, pinpointing the enemy's fortified positions, while at the same time directing and urging his men forward until he was mortally wounded. Captain Pitts' conspicuous gallantry, extraordinary heroism, and intrepidity at the cost of his life, above and beyond the call of duty, are in the highest tradition of the U.S. Army, reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and armed forces. And there's actually a video about him. I'm going to see if I can pull it up real quick. Maybe we can check it out if we have time, because that doesn't really tell the full story of Captain Pitts. You see, it just, it tells a little bit, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to see if I can pull this video up, because I want y'all to kind of really get a better understanding of Captain Pitts and what he actually did. So we'll see. Hold on a minute.
The area where he's supposed to.
All right. So this is a video I want you guys to check out about Captain Pitts. And let's check it out real quick. Let me know if you can hear it, fellas. Hit the number 1 button.
African American soldiers have served with distinction since the earliest days of our country. In honor of African American Heritage Month, the Bronco Brigade and the Wolfhounds remember one of the bravest soldiers in their legacy, Captain Riley L. Pitts.
Right, Captain Pitts was the first African-American officer inducted into the Congressional Medal of Honor. He set the example for all. The battle that Captain Pitts was a part of was the air mobile assault. He was assaulted into an area where he was supposed to help a company that was in need. As he was maneuvering to the battle, he was engaged with multiple enemy fire from all sides. By taking charge and knowing what he needed to do to get to the objective to save the other company that was also pinned down by enemy fire, he took charge and quickly tried to maneuver to get to them. As he was going through there was a series of actions that take place as he was trying to take out a couple of bunkers and stuff. One incident where he shot the grenade to the foliage, it bounced back towards his position, and he automatically, with personal courage, just landed on it. Well, it was a dud, and it didn't go off. That was one heroic action and a display of personal courage that Captain Pitts displayed. The next time was as he was getting closer to the objective, he was receiving more additional enemy fire, and it was coming at all sides. As he was still trying to maneuver his men, they were taking a lot of casualties, and Captain Pitts ended up becoming a casualty himself, which he perished later on.
President Lyndon B. Johnson awarded Captain Pitts the Medal of Honor posthumously. The award was presented to his wife and children at the White House. His story impacts young soldiers today.
During Vietnam, to be a wolfhound, especially like as an African American and an officer at that, it means a lot. It's like a big difference because he pretty much set in stone for the rest of Charlie Company soldiers, like after him, for the rest of Charlie Company's time in the military. That motivates me a lot because for him to jump on a grenade, that makes me want to go out and do whatever I can to make sure that my soldiers are okay. It helps me train with my everyday life, honestly.
Wolfhound leaders stress the importance of knowing the wolfhound rich history.
It's one of the big highlights, especially since I'm in Charlie Company, and being African American, they expect me to kind of know it, because I want to know as much history as I can about my heritage, my culture, my background. And that's one of the things that I hit up on because I've been to 2 boards already, and I hit up on Captain Pitts both times.
Many brave infantry soldiers serve as wolfhounds, a path paved by the ultimate sacrifice of Captain Riley L. Pitts. From Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, I'm Army Sergeant Lauren Massey.
So you guys heard the story about Captain Pitts. Basically, he saw too many of his men was dying, so he took it upon himself to take action. He probably recognized that he wasn't going to make it out of there. But that says a lot about what Captain Pitts was and who he stands for. So, as you see, he's still inspiring Black men, in the military. So, let's acknowledge and never forget Captain Riley Leroy Pitts. This is just another one, like I said, an educated brother from Oklahoma. He was 30 years old when that happened. You guys make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal, and we're going to go ahead and move forward. And we got one last one. And this is, what they say, last but definitely not least. And we're going to talk about Major General Charles Calvin Rodgers. Okay? So I'm going to pull him up real quick. Pull him up here. This is Charles Calvin Rodgers, brother right there. Look at him. Standing up proud and strong, right? Big shout out. Hit the #1 button for everybody, man. And I hope this is motivating you, brothers. This is the type of masculinity we need to discuss as Black men. Some kind of way, thugs sagging their pants and dudes that don't know if they're boys or girls, men that are indecisive and weak have become what's acceptable as far as Black masculinity. And I'm gonna tell you like this: what we cannot do is let other people, other men, other groups of people, whoever it is, women, we cannot allow them to define what being a Black man is. That is solely our terrain. That solely belongs to us as Black men. That's our property. I don't care if they call you toxic. I don't care if they say your masculinity is toxic. I don't care if they call whatever they call you. It's on us to define what masculinity is. And I suggest we start with some of our war heroes. And we look at some of the sacrifices that they've made. Sergeant First Class Melvin Morris. We talked about him earlier, right? Remember what he did, right? Remember what he did, right? Went and got his friends, got him up out of there. Private First Class Milton Lee Olive jumped on a grenade. I got it. Gave the ultimate sacrifice. First Medal of Honor winner, Black Medal of Honor winner in Vietnam. These are the black men that we come from. So you should have pride in what we've done. This is a sacrifice. Sacrificing for a country that didn't give us the rights that we were fighting for people overseas. We were fighting to keep the South Vietnamese from being overrun by the North Vietnamese. We were fighting for their rights. And we were still fighting for our rights back home. But still, we set that aside and we picked up the rifle and we fight, as we did in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War, Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Korea, and now Vietnam. Here we are. So let's not forget this when we define what masculinity is. Let's not forget these men when we begin to determine what it is to be a black man in America. These are men, these are your fathers. If this was your father, if this was your uncle, then you have that in you. You have that heroism in you. Think about that. I want y'all just to think about that. Now let's go ahead and let's have this conversation about Major General. Big shout out to Broken Blade. Thank you, brother. And King, let me make sure I got this. Ghidorah. I want to make sure I get your brother's names right. Thank you for the info. Use this. This is not just an exercise. This is not a history lesson. This is the history. This is a lesson in character traits. You don't talk about your ancestors just because you want to know where they were born, where they were lived. But you want to talk about the type of men that you never know a man until he's under pressure. We know who Sergeant First Class Melvin Morris is. Did 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. We know who that is. We know who Private First Class Milton Olive III is because we see what they did under pressure. We see how they handled themselves when their friends needed them. That's who they were. They defined themselves by their act of heroism. So who are you, brother? When you measure up, when you compare yourself to these soldiers, to these warriors, do you marry up? You a tough guy? You a tough guy? You say you're a soldier, you're a tough guy. How do you measure up to Captain Riley Pitts? Riley Pitts threw a grenade of the enemy. It came back. He jumped on top of it himself because he didn't want it to hurt his men. He saw his men were being shot down. What did he do? He personally took it upon himself to destroy those enemy bunkers. He put himself in the line of fire for his men. That's the type of leader I want to follow. I follow him into the gates of hell. I would follow that type of man into the gates of hell. Those are the type of men that you want leading you in battle. Somebody that's willing to put it all on the line for you. Because out there in the middle of the jungle, it didn't matter what goddamn country you were from or what flag you were from. It was about the man standing next to you. I can guarantee you that. The bonds that you had made on those treks through the jungle as the military guy, your battle buddy. That's what it was about at that point, those bonds that those men had made. and they weren't going to let each other down, and it started from the top. Responsibility started from the top. He was the captain, and I'm referring to Captain Riley L. Pitts. He was the captain. These are my men. I'm going to protect them with my life. He led from the front. And what did he do? He sacrificed his life to terminate those enemy bunkers so that his men could pass by. That's what it said he did. He gave continuous fire even after being wounded so his men could pass by that bunker so they could go on their mission. That's a hell of a man right there. Think about that. He's a human being just like the rest of us. We all have. He got 2 kids at home and a wife. I'm sure he thought about his children every day. I'm sure he thought about his wife, Eula, every day back in Oklahoma. But while he was in that jungle, those were his children. That was his family. And he did his damnedest to make sure all of them went home. That's what being a man is about. That's the ultimate sacrifice right there. Sometimes it ain't where you're from, it's where you're at and who you're with. When you make a bond like that, I got your back, you got mine. Those are the type of brotherly bonds that we need. Those bonds made under fire. So God bless him. God bless him. Let's not forget him. The least we could do as men, brothers, as black men especially, the least we could do is remember Captain Riley Pitts. That's the least we can do is mention his name. Remind ourselves that he lived. That's the least we could do. They put schools and streets, but let's speak his name. And I'm sure that this black man wants to know that in 2021, in August 13th, 2021, that there are some black men around the country connected through technology, internet, that are speaking about his name. We are his blood. He is our legacy. It is incumbent upon us to keep his name alive. Captain Riley Pitts. And the same thing goes for Milton, who's still alive, or who's still alive with us, because we speak in his name. Let's remember him. Let's remember the sacrifice. I got it, and jumped on a grenade, grabbed the grenade, tucked it on himself, and fell on top of it. Let's remember the sacrifice that this young man made. At 18 years old, from Chicago, city boy. Let's remember the sacrifice that they made, brothers. Let's remember them. The sacrifice they made for their brothers. Remember that. These are warriors. We uplift the wrong. We uplift rappers and singers and ball players. Why can't we uplift our soldiers and our Marines and our warriors? Why can't we do that? That's what I think we should do. And look, I told you guys before, I have great respect for all the African kings and Shaka Zulu and Genghis, and Hannibal and all that. That's wonderful. It's great. We look up to them. That is also part of our distant heritage. But this right here, Milton Lee Olive III is that you know somebody that knows him. That's what I'm saying. And when you're prepared to fight and die for the man next to you, when you're ready to defend that man, when you're ready to defend yourself, when you're ready to press forward, when you're not, when you fear death, but you won't let it deter you, oh goddamn. It's a beautiful thing. That's freedom. I can only imagine. So let's move on. We're going to talk about Major General Charles Rodgers. I just want to acknowledge the families of Milton Lee Olive III and Riley L. Pitts. Thank you. I appreciate this. We're simply doing this to help inspire a new generation of black men, and I wanted to make sure I did that. I think it's important. I think is very important. But I'm especially proud to talk about Charles Calvin Rodgers. All right. And we're going to call him Major General. Those in the military, you probably know how hard it is to get to be a Major General in the United States military, right? Charles Calvin Rodgers was born on September 6, 1929. He was a U.S. Army officer and recipient of the highest military decoration in the United States, a Medal of Honor for his actions during the Vietnam War. Okay. Charles Rodgers joined the U.S. Army through Army ROTC at West Virginia State College, which is now West Virginia State University. This is a historically Black college, by the way. I want to bring that up. Make sure I give a shout out to all my HBCUs. Is a public historically Black land-grant university institute, West Virginia, founded in 1891. It was one of the original 19 land-grant colleges. The university established by the Second Morrill Act of 1890, which involved as a diverse and inclusive campus. So he's an HBCU graduate. That's who this is right there. Charles Rodgers Institute, okay, and by 1968, he was serving as a lieutenant colonel in command of the 1st Battalion, 5th Field Artillery Regiment, 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. That's 1968. This man was a lieutenant colonel in the military, in the Army. On November 1st, 1968, during the operation of Tone Thang 2, 1/5 Artillery was manning fire support base Rita near Fishhook region of the Cambodian border when it came under heavy attack. Rodgers rallied his men in the defense of the base and, despite being several times wounded, continued to lead the battalion until the attack was repulsed. For his actions during the battle, Rodgers was nominated for the Medal of Honor. His nomination was approved on May 14, 1970. Rodgers and 11 other servicemen were presented with medals of honor by U.S. President Dick Nixon at a ceremony in the White House. After recovering, Rodgers attended the U.S. Army War College and received his master's degree from Shippensburg State College. He rose to the rank of Major General before he left the Army in 1984. He later became a Baptist minister serving U.S. troops stationed in Germany. After a brief battle with prostate cancer, he passed away in Germany. Brother was on some SYSBM. At 61, he's buried in Arlington National Cemetery in Arlington County, Virginia. Let's read a little bit more. I want to get some more detail. I actually have a video on this. I want to kind of read a little bit more, and I have a video on this afterwards. And if you guys bear with me, are you appreciating this? I don't want to be too long-winded. I know we went 2 hours last night. I don't want to bore you guys to death. But if you're enjoying this, hit the number 1 button. Let me know if you're enjoying it. Please hit the number 1 button, okay? But let's continue reading. I'll continue reading. Hold on 1 minute. If you appreciate this, hit the number 1 button. I can cut this thing short. I do have a little video presentation about Major General Charles. I was going to let you guys see it, but if you want to, but we don't have to spend all night watching. I know it's, you might have other things to do, but I just thought this was important. And I know the video brings things home for you guys. And I just think you're not going to see anything else like this. I've looked through all the military channels. They never specifically talk about Black American military men, Vietnam War heroes. This is not something I ever see. They never actually, they definitely don't show you pictures. It took me several hours to find all these pictures of these brothers and get them loaded up for the thumbnail to make it easy for you guys to find in 4 or 5 years. But either way, let's continue. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity, in action at risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers, Field Artillery, distinguished himself in action while serving as a commanding officer, 1st Battalion, during the defense of a forward fire support base. In early morning hours, in other words, early in the morning, the fire support base was subject to a concentrated bombardment of heavy mortar, rocket-propelled grenades. In other words, early in the morning, the enemy start launching bombs at the base. That's basically what that means. Simultaneously, the position was struck by a human wave of ground assault led by sappers. I don't even know what a sapper is. Such as breaching fortifications. These guys were basically, they got saws and stuff like that and axes. They trying to cut through the barrier. They trying to cut a way through. So a ground assault, in other words, a bunch of people, a human wave, came through with axes and saws and whatnot. And they was trying to breach the defensive barrier with Bangalore, which is an explosive charge placed within one or several connected tubes. It is used by combat engineers to clear obstacles that would otherwise require them to approach directly, possible under fire. So basically, they was trying to breach the perimeter. Bangalore and penetrated the defensive perimeter. So they basically got in. They got into the base. So now you got hornets. You got hornets in your house. Imagine being in your car and it's filled up with hornets. That's what they were dealing with. And so you're the commanding officer on duty. And this is what you got. This is what you wake up to early in the morning. Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers, with complete disregard for his safety, moved through the hail of fragments from bursting enemy rounds to the embattled area. He aggressively rallied the dazed artillery crewmen to man their howitzer, right? This is a howitzer right there. It's a big gun. And he directed their fire on assaulting enemy. Although knocked to the ground and wounded by an exploding round, Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers sprang to his feet and led a small counterattack force against the enemy element that had penetrated the howitzer position. So you got the lieutenant colonel out here doing hand-to-hand combat and shooting people. This brother was 40 years old at that time. I just want you to understand that. He was born in 1929, 39, 49, 59, 69. So by 1969, well, let's get the exact date on this thing. 1969, which was, I'm trying to figure out the date. This happened on 68. So this brother 39 years old, apparently, right? More or less. On November 1st, yeah, he's 30, he damn near 40 years old. He's doing hand-to-hand combat. Now, this is what this brother's doing out here. Woo. Although painfully wounded a second time, well, he sprang to his feet and led a small counterattack force against the enemy element that had penetrated the howitzer position. Although painfully wounded a second time, so he shot again. Although painfully wounded a second time during the assault, Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers pressed the attack, killing several of the enemy and driving the remainder from their positions. Refusing medical treatment, right? Lieutenant Rodgers reestablished and reinforced the defensive position. So, yeah, you bleeding. You might bleed out, Lieutenant Colonel, but before he let himself die, this is what you got to understand. Before I die, we're going to reestablish this perimeter. We're going to get this defensive perimeter together again. Yeah, I'm bleeding. I get it. I'm bleeding out, but we're going to establish this defensive positions, and that's what we're going to do. And guess what happened? As a second wave of human wave attack was launched against another section of the perimeter. So the fight ain't over. That was the first one. And mind you, it's early in the morning. You've been shot twice. You've been in a battle. You say, I'm not going to die until these defensive positions are established. And in the middle of you trying to fix your wall, here comes some more. A second wave attack was launched against another section of the perimeter. Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers directed artillery fire on the assaulting enemy and led a second counter. He led. I want you to look at that word. Led. This is what this man did. He didn't tell him what to do. He led it. He led a second counterattack. You know what it's like to see your leader out front fighting along. Old man, 39, he out front. You know how motivating that is? And you know, sometimes when you guys see me on TV and you see me saying the same things that we say here, doesn't that make you feel good? Look at Uncle D. Doesn't that motivate? Imagine if you're an 18-year-old man and you see somebody your daddy's age fighting on the front lines with you. You like, oh, I got to do it. I can't let daddy outdo me. This is how you feel when your 40-year-old lieutenant colonel is out front fighting hand to hand with you. Lieutenant colonel, okay? Not lieutenant, not staff sergeant, not private. Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers is out there, right, standing point. Imagine how that feels when you take the lead like that. That's leadership, man. That's motivational to me. See, I don't ask you brothers to say anything or do anything I don't do or haven't done. And that's why I'm speaking from a place of experience. I'm right down here with you. You see, I could be somewhere on an island somewhere chilling. Y'all seen me on islands chilling. But I decided I'm going to come on back to the United States and I'm going to get you black men together. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach you how to be, I'm going to teach you a path to manhood. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't care if you're mean. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you're angry with me. We're going to be men when this is all over. I'm sure there's plenty of people that Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers talked rough to back then. But when they all saw him standing in the front like that, standing on point, hand to hand with the enemy, not running and hiding, they had to say, well, God damn it, I got a whole new respect. I see why Colonel Rodgers was the way he was. Think about that. Think about that. He refused to die until his wall was put back up. And in the middle of them putting his wall back up, the second wave came, and he led the attack against that second wave in the whole second, two bullet wounds in him, right? Some folk get a splinter and fall out. His valorous example rallied the beleaguered defender. They tired. Oh God, right? He said, but Lieutenant, old man is out there. I'm gonna do it too. The example, his valorous example rallied the beleaguered defenders to repulse and defeat the enemy onslaught. Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers moved from position to position through heavy enemy fire. He didn't stay hunkered down. He went, I'm gonna go over here. Blah, I'm gonna go. This is what this man did. Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers moved from position to position through heavy enemy fire, giving encouragement. Come on, man, fight through. Can you imagine that? And the direction of his men. A lot of these brothers, man, they probably saw him as a father figure. And, you know, can you know how it feels when your daddy's like, come on, yeah, man, you got it. You can do it. Come on, man. You got it. Come on, brother. Come on, son. Push through, push through. You know what that's like to be motivated by your dad, believing in you and telling you can do it. That's what these brothers felt. And to have a lieutenant colonel out there, a black man, imagine the effect it had on those black men. Mind you, about 40% of the troops in Vietnam were African-American men. Do you know how inspirational it was for them to see Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers there? Just imagine you a black boy, you just got drafted out of Mississippi, goddamn Alabama, Detroit, Chicago, and these white folks that got you over here fighting this goddamn war. You don't have nothing to do with it. And you like, this is a white man's war. And then you see Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers out there. That's your base commander. You like, okay. You see what I mean? I'll fight for him. And then you see him out front leading like that. I'll fight for him. This is motivational. When you're willing to get down in the dirt with your men, that's a whole nother level of motivation. This is why Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers, at the time Lieutenant Colonel, and now of course Major General Rodgers, is an important person. This is the leadership that I'm talking about. You see, this is why a lot of folks don't like the so-called talented 10th amongst us, because they too educated and to get their fingers dirty, and they don't want to interact with the public. I know a lot of people like that. They think I'm crazy. Then it's why you out there talking to them, you out here talking to the proletariats. Why are you talking to them ignorant thugs, those people on the internet? Why are you talking to them, Dennis? They'll never learn. They don't believe you. They're going to call you names and give you a hard time and call you an elitist. You know, all the stuff that black folk do. They're going to say you think you better than us. You talking down to us and stuff. But I'm still right here with you, engaging with you, opening up my forum, spending my time talking to you, helping you learn from the things that I've benefited from, teaching you how to articulate yourself and defend yourself and not get emotional. Whether you see me on TV, whether you see how I interact with the ladies who come here, being able to get down and dirty with the men. You say getting down and getting in the gutter, getting down in the trenches. That's what Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers did. So let's continue reading. Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers moved to the threatened area and directed lethal fire on enemy forces. Seeing a howitzer inoperative due to casualties, Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers joined the surviving members of the crew to return the howitzer to action. So he jumped on it. He started pulling the trigger or whatever. While directing the position defense, Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers was seriously wounded by fragments from heavy mortar round which exploded on the parapet. I'm sorry, guys. Which exploded on the parapet of the gun position. Although too severely wounded to physically lead the defenders, Lieutenant, now mind you, he had been leading from the front, right? From that, we going over here, we going over there. He leading, he shooting, he busting. This is what the 39, right? 30. This is what Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers. He still, what did he do after he got severely wounded and too physically hurt to lead the defenders? Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers continued to give encouragement and direction to his men in defeating and repelling the enemy attack. Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers' dauntless courage and heroism inspired the defenders of the fire support base to the heights of valor to defeat a determined and numerically superior enemy. His relentless spirit of aggressiveness and action are the highest traditions of military service and reflects great credit upon himself, his unit, and the U.S. Army. So this is what the brother did, man. Now I got a little videotape, a little video I would like for you guys to check it out, but that's Major General Rodgers right here. If you got a little time, let's watch a little bit of it. You guys hit the #1 button if you appreciate this, man. And of course, all the links to this stuff are here, so you can always check it out. Make sure you can hear me when it's go. And hit the #1 button if you appreciate this, guys. Hit the #1 button. Let's continue. Let's check this out. I don't want to hold you all night. I just want y'all to look. Are you guys saying there's no sound? Can you guys hear it or not? Let me know if you can hear it. If you can't hear it, let me know. Okay, let me readjust this. I'm gonna get the sound going. All right. Basically, that's just introducing him. I'll take it back a little bit. This is him as an older man, so he survived that fight. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Let me know if you can hear it.
Driven by his faith and a responsibility to excel. 1968, Halloween in Vietnam. The North Vietnamese launch a furious attack on Rodgers Fire Base near the Cambodian border. The battle lasts all night and into dawn. Rodgers rallies his troops and directs the defense, fighting off human wave attacks. He is wounded. Wounded again. Wounded a third time. At last, the enemy withdraws. Rodgers will receive the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Lieutenant Colonel Charles C. Rodgers, Field Artillery, from the United States Army, while serving as commanding officer, 1st Battalion, 5th Artillery, 1st Infantry.
I had my entire family there, which pleased me greatly. My mother and father were so very happy, proud. They had such high expectations for me all of my life, and it made it difficult for me. Everything I did, and I say this with great sincerity too, in high school and in college. High school, I played football and basketball and other type sports. I always wanted to make Mom and Dad proud of me. I was a good student. My grades were darn near always A's. And I worked very hard to make them proud of me. But I realized early that the Lord had given me an awful lot of ability, a lot of talent.
I don't want to interrupt this, but you see what you get when you get a young black boy who's raised with a strong father. Look at this man's daddy right here. I want y'all just to look at this man's daddy, right? I want you to slide back. I want you to just look at his daddy. And look at this man. Now he 40. This is daddy over here. Look at the daddy over here. He looked like he ain't playing either. You understand what I'm saying? He's looking like he's not about them games. And that's his mama, of course. And these are apparently his daughters or whatnot. And this is what happened when you got strong family units raising boys. You get strong men. Strong men give you strong men. They got a strong family. These little girls sitting there with their hands across they fronts, behaving themselves. You see what I mean? This is what it looked like. This is what black families used to look like. You understand me? This is what we lost for feminism. This is what we traded this for the get the bag culture. We traded this for the pimp culture, the player culture. This is what we did. We had men like this. We still have them, but they few and far between. But this is what happened when you got generations of intact black folk, black men, families generally. I just wanted to talk about that, but let's go ahead and continue.
Proud. They had such high expectations for me all of my life, and it made it difficult for me. Everything I did, and I say this with great sincerity too, in high school and in college. High school, I played football and basketball and other type sports. I always wanted to make mom and dad proud of me. I was a good student. My grades were darn near always A's. And I worked very hard to make them proud of me. But I realized early that the Lord had given me an awful lot of ability, a lot of talent. And the one thing that I was super sensitive to, and that was living up to the levels of ability that the Lord had given me.
Colonel Rodgers' dauntless courage and heroism inspired the defenders of the fire support base to the heights of valor to defeat a determined and numerically superior enemy force.
But I guess I was sobered to a great extent because of my thoughts and memories of what had happened and what that medal meant. It meant the life and the injury of a number of people.
Charles Rodgers and the men of his artillery unit were part of the U.S. Army Infantry Division called the Big Red One. The division began a major assault against the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong in the fall of 1968, intended to stop the enemy from attacking the capital of South Vietnam, Saigon. This U.S. Army documentary described the action.
The objective of these aggressive campaigns was to smash the enemy's war potential on a vast scale, kill his troops, destroy his base camps and supply dumps, interdict his supply trails and his routes for infiltration and retreat. There was frequent contact with the enemy as strong forces pushed north, carrying out Phase 2 of Operation Certain Victory. Viet Cong resistance was strong, and there was hard fighting as 1st Divisioners conducted several spoiling actions, destroying enemy camps and heavily built bunkers with intense fires supported by artillery. Among the highlights of the drive were several engagements with troops of the 1st North Vietnamese Army Division. These took place immediately across the border from Cambodia's Fishhook area. The Big Red One had established several fire support patrol bases in the area. They were placed astride a main infiltration route used by the North Vietnamese invaders.
One of my assistant division commanders went in there with me. His name is General Bill Coleman, who's now dead. And he said, Charlie, you're going to get rocketed a lot in here, and you're going to get mortared an awful lot in here, and you're going to get attacked a lot in here, because this is a major resupply route. We did not know, of course, what was coming, but we were right along the Cambodian border in Vietnam. And at night in my helicopters, I could go up and I could see long lines of trucks, headlights of vehicles driving from up in the north in Cambodia down toward the south, right along the border. And right at the border, they'd turn off their lights. We suspected that they were unloading ammunition and equipment and troops, but we couldn't fire across the border at them. From time to time, we'd get fire from on the other side of the
What a lot of Vietnam soldiers, veterans, and people tell you is that this war, basically Americans and the professional military, their hands were tied behind their back. Here you are, you got an enemy right on the other side of the Cambodian border, and you can't even, you know they're over there. So they didn't give a damn about no goddamn territorial lines between Vietnam and Cambodia. We weren't at war with Cambodia, so we couldn't go across that line. But the Vietnamese went across that line all the time. They went over there, reloaded, came back, all these different things. And so here your enemy is right here, 20 miles, 30, 40 miles away, within striking distance, but you can't hit them because that violates what? My man Broken Blade said, yeah, red tape, right? Because you don't want a national incident. But the enemy is using this neighboring country, right, as a safe place where they can reload and then relaunch back at you. This is why Vietnam, especially to some of the Vietnamese, we could have won that war. They tell you all the time, we could have won that war, but the government bureaucrats and the red tape kept us from fighting it like we needed to. You know, your enemy is right over here. It's like your enemy hits you with a rock and then runs inside somebody's yard and you can't go over there and get them, and they hit you with the rock. And then you got to wait till they come back out. And so they're fighting the war on their schedule. And they know you're bogged down by red tape, as my man Broken Blade said. So this is why this was so frustrating. And that's kind of what he's talking about. But we'll continue.
The border, but at that time we were not permitted to return fire on the other side of the border.
Fire support bases, the big guns of the artillery, mobile tanks, large howitzers, machine guns, mortars, all are used to protect the dug-in position, dug in to defend against attack, as well as to prevent the North Vietnamese from penetrating the border. For Charles Rodgers and the men at Fire Support Base Rita, it would be a long night. Heroes will be back in a moment. To Heroes. The 1968 presidential election was 6 days away when Colonel Rodgers' men dug in at Fire Base Rita in Vietnam. Richard Nixon was about to win. Hubert Humphrey, who accepted the nomination Lyndon Johnson declined, was vainly struggling to persuade voters that peace talks would succeed. On the last day of October, President Johnson halted the bombing of North Vietnam. In Paris, Ambassador Averell Harriman thought this would break the stalemate in peace talks.
I have a statement I begin today, and I'm calling upon the North Vietnamese to move towards peace.
In Washington, Secretary of State Dean Rusk announced the bomb halt.
President Johnson stated clearly last night that his decision to stop the bombing of North Vietnam was based upon specific expectations that the government of South Vietnam will participate in the discussion of an honorable peace.
As attempts at peace were underway, Colonel Rodgers' men were in position to block North Vietnamese supplies coming into South Vietnam along the Ho Chi Minh Trail from Cambodia. So while men abroad spoke...
Here's the thing, Ho Chi Minh Trail, it wasn't just one trail, okay? It was a series of different corridors from the north to the south. Because remember, we couldn't cross that, our guys couldn't cross that parallel. We couldn't invade North Vietnam. We couldn't go to Cambodia. So what were we doing? We were, well, let me, what do they call it? The DMZ, the demilitarized zone. There wasn't supposed to be no fighting in there, but apparently it was a lot of fighting in there. But the Americans were the only ones fighting by the rules. So this is what these guys have. And, you know, I want you military guys, make sure you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm telling the story. It said it disconnected for a moment. Can you guys hear me? Make sure you can hear me. If you can hear me, hit the number 1 button. Let me know you can hear me, guys. If you can hear me, hit the number 1 button. I want to make sure I'm back. Broken Blade, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay, we can hear me. Okay, so we back. I was just kind of explaining to them. So you got the Ho Chi Minh Trail was not one trail. It was a whole series of trails. The Americans would go along and bomb it. By the next night, the folks that have it, the North Vietnamese, they'll have it back up and running. They're running trucks all night, turning their lights off, running in the dark. This is what they were doing. So they were constantly supplying their countrymen in the South, the war effort against the American. This is what we're dealing with. This is the politics. But let's continue listening.
Of peace on October 31st. It was Halloween in Vietnam, and Charles Rodgers and his troops were in for a night of bloody battle.
We were firing what we called intelligence fires into the area just on the Vietnamese side of the border where we anticipated troops or equipment would be brought across the border. And we started getting major explosions in the area where our artillery was landing. We call them secondary explosions, where the munitions would hit the ground and then something else would explode there. And after the action was over, some of the prisoners of war were captured.
So what he's saying is, we knew something is over there. We didn't know exactly where it was, so we started firing the howitzer over there. And this is the parapet right here. This is what these men are standing on. So we start throwing these bombs over here, and we hitting stuff. And the reason we know we hitting stuff is because we getting secondary explosions. We hit this, bam, something blew up. All right, that wasn't just artillery fire. That was something that blew up. Okay, so they're doing intelligence fire. They knew you was over there somewhere. They had a general idea. So we're gonna keep on firing until we hit something. And that's what they were doing right there. And so they knew something was over there. So that's why they're doing that. That's what he meant by intelligence firing.
Told our soldiers and our interrogators that the reason they attacked our position there in the jungle was because we had destroyed and damaged so much of their equipment, and those secondary explosions that we were seeing was their major ammunition dump, and they realized that they were never going to be successful in getting supplies from there in Cambodia down to Saigon unless they knocked out the artillery. And we had just fired what we call a mad minute, in which you fire all the weapons in the command into the perimeter all around the command post, the TOCs, tactical operations centers, and so forth. And we fired every weapon we had into the perimeter, so if the enemy had sneaked up along the perimeter and was getting ready to launch any attacks, that we could neutralize him and break up any such initiatives that he might have. And I was in my operations center, and then at the end of 1 minute, the sound of firings didn't stop. Soldiers, being as they are, tend to name things, sometimes humorously. They later on called the night of this major attack the Halloween party. Well, it was anything but a party.
Colonel Rodgers, with complete disregard for his own safety.
So the soldiers named this stuff. Remember, you got a bunch of young guys out in the jungle, man. These are young boys. They out there having a good time. They grown. This is the first time many of them left their mama's house, man. And but I want to kind of put the political climate in clearly. Colonel Rodgers, Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers, understand we're talking about peace accords in Paris. This thing is going to be over soon. Bam. People might have had a little relax. So we're just going to do this. And Black Warrior Spirit said interdiction or harassment. We're just going to do this. We're just going through our day. They mess around and hit something. It makes the Vietnamese opposing army realize we are not going to be able to ever get resupplied unless we get rid of this base that Colonel Rodgers is commanding. We got to get it. So they said, we just do something. We just do a mad minute and just to check the perimeter every now and then. And so what do? They start shooting massively at the perimeter, not knowing if anything is out there. Next thing you know, after the minute is over, they're receiving fire. So they messed around and began shooting at the enemy before the enemy started. It's just an amazing sort of thing, coincidences that this is happening. But just imagine, y'all think it's Halloween night, some guys may have had a good little drink or whatever. It's a little festive because, little young guys, they can't help but do it. So they call this the Halloween party. But let's continue listening.
Move through a hail of fragments from bursting enemy rounds to the embattled area. He aggressively rallied the dazed artillery crewmen to man their howitzers, and he directed their fire on the assaulting enemy.
And the first sergeant said, "Hit the ground, Colonel. There are 3 NVA over there." And he was pointing. NVA, North Vietnamese Army soldiers. And I started falling forward, looking in the direction that he was pointing. As I was falling forward, something hit me in the face and knocked me over backwards. And I was unconscious for a short period of time, and then I felt I was drowning. And then when I became conscious, I started coughing and choking and rolled over, and I realized that I was drowning in blood, my own blood. And what had happened, apparently, I had seen 3 North Vietnamese Army soldiers standing and firing their rifles when the sergeant told me to look. As I was falling forward, I saw them standing, and I saw the burst of fire. And then, apparently, the round from the rifle must have hit my self-propelled howitzer and ricocheted into my face. In any sense, it went in right here, and when I woke up drowning in blood, as I was trying to breathe, I was choking on it, and I felt something in my mouth, and I reached out and I pulled the bullet out of my mouth.
Refusing medical treatment.
Look, did you see that, Lieutenant? He got shot in the face and ate the bullet and spit the bullet out. Are you kidding me? And he shot in the face and he kept fighting. Damn. Let's keep watching, y'all.
Colonel Rodgers reestablished and reinforced the defensive positions. As a second human wave attack was launched against another sector of the perimeter, Colonel Rodgers directed artillery fire on the assaulting enemy and led a second counterattack against the charging forces. His valorous example rallied the beleaguered defenders to repulse and defeat the enemy onslaught. Colonel Rodgers moved from position to position through the heavy enemy fire, giving encouragement and direction to his men.
The guns of an artillery base are too big to move quickly. So under attack, the way to defend the base is to dig in. The first reaction to enemy fire is to run for cover. But soon, the time comes to defend the camp. Leadership comes to the fore.
Yeah, Black Warriors bringing up something. That's a 7.62 AKA round. That's a hell of a slug right there, man. You take an AK-47 to the face and you spit it out and you keep fighting. What else can I say?
To protect the men, the base, to fight the enemy. Charles Rodgers gave a simple order.
On one occasion, I remember a soldier who was manning a 50 caliber machine gun up on top of one of my self-propelled howitzers was shot and killed while he was doing that, and he fell at our feet. And I said to a soldier who was fighting with me, I said, "Get up and man that machine gun." And he looked at me very strangely. The fellow who was just manning the machine gun has been shot and he's lying at our feet. He looked at me a long time, and I'll never forget the look on his face and in his eyes. Because we had illumination all around, you could see quite well. And he reached down and got a box full of ammunition. He climbed upon that howitzer, and he started manning up his machine gun. That's the kind of courage they had. They're seeing me out doing things that I had to do, encourage them.
I want you to understand what he said. He basically said somebody was manning a 50 caliber machine gun. He dropped, the soldier that was manning, he got shot, he dropped down to the ground. Lieutenant Colonel, he told Colonel Rodgers, Lieutenant Colonel Rodgers told another man, get on up there and man that machine gun. He looked at it And he looked back at him. And he went up there, and the soldier, he said he looked at him for a while. Mind you, there's guns and bullets flying everywhere, and bombs bursting. But he got back up there. And why? Because they saw Lieutenant Rodgers out in the fight doing the same thing. Can you imagine if he's giving you orders to do stuff and he's hiding behind some sort of, you run over there and shoot those enemy while he's hiding in a fortified bunker, something like that? That's not the type of man, leader that motivates a man to give to put his life in the line of fire. That's not somebody you want to fight from. But this is the importance of what Rodgers was doing. Yeah, I get it. In the military, you're supposed to follow orders, whatever. But there's a certain level of respect and reverence that you have for a man that's your leader, that's out there on the front lines with you. And so the reason he's saying, basically the reason that they were willing to follow my orders is because they saw me going back and forth doing what I'm doing. They wanted to hold their part up. You see what I'm saying? My man Broken Blade. Boy, you guys are hilarious, man. Oh my God. If Broken Blade said he had a leader who was hiding out in the bunker and telling him to go over there, he said they'd be like, F you. I can't, you guys, man. Oh, you guys are hilarious, man. They would really say that in the military, man, today. I'm sorry. Oh my God. But basically they saw him leading from the front. Mind you, the man had been shot in the face with an AK-47, knocked out, got back up. You see what I'm saying? People dropping all around him. The young soldier dies in front of him, apparently. You get up there and you man it. And the reason the guy followed his instructions is because, like, Lieutenant Colonel is out here with us, you know, and that's leading from the front. That's what I want you guys to we're talking a little bit about leadership too, because I mean, but this is a warrior and a leader of warrior. You're a warrior. You don't respect somebody who's not a warrior, and you can't. It's hard to follow somebody like that. I've heard stories, you know, from guys. It's hard to follow somebody that will put you up to do something that they ain't doing or haven't done. So let's continue listening.
At a time like that, you don't worry about getting killed. You don't even worry about getting injured. You just worry about doing what you have to do. And that's what my soldiers did.
At dawn, the determined enemy launched a third assault against the fire base in an attempt to overrun the position. Seeing a howitzer inoperative due to casualties, Colonel Rodgers joined the surviving members of the crew to return the howitzer to action.
There were no front lines in Vietnam. The North Vietnamese would attack suddenly, rising out of the jungle, attacking with continuing intensity. They came in human.
I want you guys to understand something that's very important here. There were no front lines in Vietnam. Imagine you walking on the trail, you know, 3 or 4 miles up, you looking for the enemy in front of you, and they pop up on the right. And then you have a firefight with them. The next thing they pop up on the left. Next thing they behind you. So they're everywhere. They popping up in these, coming up out these tunnels, and they know this terrain better than you do. There's no front lines. You are literally, it's a all-day seek and destroy mission, and you don't know where they're coming from. Imagine trying to fight a wasp. They coming from everywhere. They come above, below, underneath, and you got all this to protect. That's what it was like for them. That's what he's talking about. There were no front lines in Vietnam. But let's continue listening.
Rodgers and his men at Fire Support Base Rita were surrounded by the enemy.
And the enemy just kept coming. And then I noted off to the right, to the east of us, about 70 meters or so away, a rocket hit and exploded. Didn't pay too much attention, frankly, because I'd seen rockets hitting and exploding all the time. The next thing I remembered, I was sailing through the air. I saw a soldier sailing through the air, and I saw our howitzer, it was a 105 towed howitzer. The trails of the howitzer were moving along, and it seemed as if everything was in slow motion, the way we were moving. And we were just sailing through the air, and then I saw I was coming down, and I was thinking, as an old paratrooper, that if I did not tuck my head, I could break my neck when I landed. So when I was coming down, I remember tucking my head and ducking like that, so that I hit on my back of my head and my shoulders. If I'd hit with my head upright like that, it would have broken the neck. So I hit with my head, shoulders like that, and I rolled and slammed up against the sleeping bunker. I could see both legs were up in the air against the sandbags, and I was lying on my shoulders and head. The left boot was blown off completely, and the leg was split all the way from the foot, from the ankle all the way down to the foot. The white boot was blown open, and there were injuries there also. While I was lying there, I tried to move my toes to see if anything was broken. I could not move my toes, and I thought the bones were broken. So I swung my feet down and dragged myself up beside the sleeping bag for some protection, because I could not move anymore. A few minutes later, a few seconds later, I would imagine, my operations officer came running out with the doctor with a stretcher. And he picked me up and put me on the stretcher. His name was Major Ken Smith. They put me on the stretcher and saw that I was still alive. And Ken Smith said, "Colonel, you got more lives than a cat."
Although too severely wounded to physically lead the defenders, Colonel Rodgers continued to give encouragement and direction to his men in defeating and repelling of the enemy attack.
And why did I go out there toward the perimeter where all the howitzers were in trouble, where the tanks were exploding and burning the ammunition in them? Because I felt responsible for that command and for that position. And I had a tinge of fear or concern in me that I might lose my command, that I might lose my soldiers. And that's why I don't take things concerning the Medal of Honor lightly at all. And that's why I wear the medal so infrequently. But when I do, it has a very, very special meaning for me. I love those soldiers, always will. They gave it all.
Heroes will return in a moment. To heroes.
That's it, you guys. As far as that, we got a little bit more in here where he's talking about, he's a Baptist preacher now and whatnot. But for the most part, that's it. I put the link in the chat room. Any of you guys want to come in and talk, you're welcome to come in. My man Devin, man. For the most part, I put the anybody else, any Black Warrior Spirit, man. If you got time to come in, man, you got all the information. I know you're ex-military. I know Devin is ex-military also. Anybody, especially you military guys, I want to have you Black American military men, veterans, I just like to have you guys come in and talk. If you want to come in, it's just an opportunity for you guys to debrief. Just tell us how this makes you feel hearing about these great American war heroes. Go ahead, bro. What are your thoughts, Devin?
Man, this is so humbling to me, man. I mean, I'm sitting here speechless. Mm-hmm. I mean, he took a bullet in the face in the beginning of the battle. Right. And he stood through. It's more than just a man of his rank. But you know what really stood out to me is that he's a man of faith, mm-hmm. right? Because you notice how he acknowledged that God gave him many blessings. And like they say, to he whom much has been given, much is expected. Right. And I think, part of him knew when he woke up from that beginning wound right there, mm-hmm. that the fact that he was still alive is probably what kept him going through that entire day, man. Yeah. And I want to thank you for this whole series, man, because, I did 5 years in the military, and that was many moons ago. And I have yet to hear about any of these brothers, man. Right. Yeah. I have yet to hear about any of these heroes, man. This is incredible.
Hey, man, well, you know what? You guys got to thank yourselves because, I do American history. I was doing Black American history, and we kind of ran across some guys like Colonel Ty, who I'm going to do next week. And I'm like, you know what? And then you guys said, yeah, we want to hear more about Black men in the military. And I'm like, you know, as I start thinking about it, you know, I'm always here talking about, you know, and bringing in that warrior spirit, you know, recultivating that. We all love old war movies, but we ever see Black war heroes. I'm looking at all these different guys, right? So far, we've done what, 12? We've showcased 12 Vietnam era Medal of Honor winners. And I've never seen them in any movies. They always talk about the guys from way back in the day. We got the 54th. We got, what was it, the Bloods, the Five Bloods. But you would think we would hear more about. I think this is motivational, man.
Yeah.
What do you think it would be helpful if in recruiting young Black men, especially to the military, if they talk more about these men and what they did? I mean, just your thoughts, man. Go ahead, and I want you to just debrief if you want, please.
I think it would be helpful for recruiting, and it would be helpful for morale for the brothers and sisters that are in the military right now, man, because we still to this day comprise a large part of the military, especially the Army, especially that particular branch, the Army. You know, I don't know if it's the majority, but I would wager to say we're about 50%, if not more, in the Army, from what I can observe, from what I remember. What
do you think about all these Black men with these Medal of Honors? Like,
it's incredible, man. I never even heard all of this. This is incredible. You know, I mean, when I was in the Air Force, they talked about John Levito, you know, a guy who, you know, jumped on a flare. And, you know, okay, so he did. He got burned down the center of his body. And I think, you know, and threw it out of the door of a helicopter. And I think, you know, I think that was like at the time the only Air Force Medal of Honor recipient, man. But I had no idea that there were so many brothers, man, so many Black men.
Right.
And, you know, recent history. That's the thing that really gets me, man. All of the movies that can be made about these brothers' stories.
Right.
The people who make movies loved us as much as they claim they do sometimes, right? Right? Yeah. But I mean, you know, look at the real life hero stories that can be made from just with the stories that you've said today. Yeah. Not to mention 50 Cal Hal.
Oh my God, we need to do some more on him. That's a life story right there, man.
That's a movie right there.
It really is, man. Let me we gotta do a troll check real quick. Gerald, how you doing? Unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm unmuted and I'm not a troll, man. I don't know who timed me out in your chat though.
I did. I timed you out because I when you got a name like, what do you call yourself, Gerald Jilks? I'm like, I don't know, man. This might be
well, it's a Jewish last name, so
I don't know, man. But I'm sorry about that. I had to do it. But let me let Devin go ahead and wrap this up. Devin, what are your thoughts? Who hit you the most, man? Just these. I know everybody's talking about 50 Cal Hal. We might need to really I might need to reach out to his family. You know what I'm saying? I think we just need to. We might need to do something special for 50 Cal Hal because that was too much man for all of us. Like, hold on a minute, he did what? He can't. And this is something for you guys who don't miss it. I think he was on the first day. Was he the first day or the second day? Like, hold on a minute, man. Like, where did this man come from? And on top of that, he was drafted into the military. Detroit's from the projects of Detroit. You know what I'm talking about? But
and he was a kid.
He was a kid, man. 50 Cal Hal, man. But anyway, Devin, let me get to Gerald. Yeah, that was the second day. Thank you, Broken Blade. And my man Broken Blade said, man, I'm just in the listen and learning more. I respect that, man. But thank you so much for your contributions. We ain't got but 31 people in here, man. This is a niche market that I'm serving. This is just, you know, guys that like war movies for the most part. But Gerald, man, what are your thoughts on this thing, man? What has hit you here, Gerald? You know, what are your thoughts on this, man? Gerald, are you there?
Can you hear?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. Gerald, you kind of fading in and out, Gerald. We can hear you mostly, Gerald. Can you hear us? What we'll do is we'll let Gerald get his mic back up, and then if he can't get back up, that's fine. We'll go back to Devin, but I want to let you guys hear the rest of what's said here about Colonel Rodgers, if we can.
when you're around him. There's an aura about Charlie Rodgers. It's contagious. Anybody that's around him, you start feeling good when you're around Charlie Rodgers. And in prayer breakfast, he is a man of great depth, great insight, a deeply Christian man, but not one who parades that Christianity, but it's there.
Visiting bases in Europe to counsel and inspire American soldiers, Rodgers is both a general and a minister.
And a soldier asked me, he said, how in heaven's name do we handle this thing as people in the military, showing that we're Christians, and particularly when you're in a leadership position? And this was a young captain who was getting ready to take command of a tank company. And he says, well, expect you to be tough and be hard driving and to be firm. And how can I be a Christian and still be that also? And I mentioned a couple of examples of things that I had done in my life. A soldier named Nathaniel White came to my outfit under those conditions. And I said, White, you got the worst reputation in this cotton-picking battalion. And you've been tossed in the pokey for 3 months. You've had your pay forfeited for 2/3 of your pay for 3 months. You've beat up an NCO. You've had run-ins with women that caused you trouble. And you've done this and you've done that. You've been picked up for stealing. And I really didn't want you in my battery. But you're here. And you're mine. And I'm going to make you my radio telephone operator jeep driver. First sergeant says, sir, you can't make that dud your jeep driver. You'd be the laughing stock of the battalion. Everybody knows he's a goof-off, he's a goon. Now, wait a minute, first sergeant. He's the only guy in this battery that has never made a mistake. You can't say that. I can't say that. Your sergeants can't say that. His record's perfect. He's just been assigned. He's perfectly clean, and I'm going to give him the best job I've got. You could see that soldier straighten up just a little bit. I said, White, you get out and take that job, and I want you to keep it up tight. Yes, sir, he saluted. And from that time on, he was the best cotton-picking soldier in that battery. He never did anything wrong. And that's how I told that captain to go out and command his outfit. By loving your soldiers, caring about them, concerning yourself about them, and forgiving them when they pay their price. So you have.
I want you guys to kind of, Devin, did you hear that, man? And that was an important speech I wanted to kind of talk about. Gerald, if you can come back in, come on back in, Gerald. But you hear that? So basically, you got this reject, okay? You got this guy, and you got this top of the line soldier. You got this elite level soldier, this black lieutenant colonel. And he says, you know what? You've been locked. This kid's been locked up. He had run-ins with women, got caught stealing. Basically, I'm sure he was a little black dude. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you under my wing. You're gonna be, not only you gonna be my radio operator, but you're gonna be my Jeep driver. So you're gonna sit right next to me. And I don't want, matter of fact, he's not the only soldier that's messed up. When I look at you black men, when I look at you brothers, some of you are convicts, some of you are ex-convicts, some of you haven't been properly motivated, some of you guys made mistakes. Oftentimes, I have people who look at me and say, Dennis, why do you even waste your time talking to black men? It's because I see potential in you, because I haven't given up on you. It's because I want one of you guys to come take my place. And I want you to do better. I tell my sons the same thing. I can't wait till one of y'all tell me to sit myself down and you got it from here. And see, this is the type of leadership that I respect. I love this. I mean, Devin, what do you think about that? He did it in front of all these. Oh, he beat up an NCO. They want him to be punished. This guy beat up a non-commissioner, so he beat somebody's sergeant up. What are your thoughts on this thing, man?
That is faith in action right there, man. That is a man living his Christianity. That's a man living his Bible. That's a man giving the forgiveness of Jesus Christ and believing in redemption. Yeah. The Christian belief in redemption of the spirit.
Amen.
And like, look, man, I'm going to take you under my wing. And to see someone of that rank, once again, we got to get back to the power that this man, because he wore it on his shoulders, right? So it was apparent to everybody. And for someone at his level of thunder, right, to be able to say, no, man, I believe in you.
Right.
Now you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
I've
done the same thing with some young black lawyers coming out of like law school, like Texas Southern, and They like, yeah, we went to this little, level 4 law school and this, that. I said, let me show you how to make this money. And so what I'll do is I'll take them, and maybe I have some of them come on. I've actually had a couple of them. Remember that guy that we were going back and forth with that O.J. Simpson thing, and he was telling me, give me a piece of his mind. He's been working with me since he was a young law clerk, before he even had a law degree. He's been under my wing. And there's nothing I like better than when people I taught, come put me in my place. I hate to say it like that, man, but and I was explaining this to my sons. I'm like, your sensei cannot wait until you kick his ass one day. They right. Cannot wait. My job is done. They look forward to that. I look forward to the day when the young lawyers that I've taught say, we got it. But what are you talking about? You ain't been to law school in 40 years. I can't wait till they put me in my place, man. I'm excited about that, because that means I've done what master teacher, whatever it is, whether it's law, whether it's military, or whatever, martial arts, you want your pupils to take your place, because that tradition that you have will go forward. You know what I mean? And so as a military man yourself, man, what does it take for a lieutenant colonel like this to put his reputation online for a lowly private? He had the salary. He had lost 2/3 of his salary for 3 months. That boy, he really was in trouble. What does it take for this man to do that, man?
But the thing is, man, what he was doing was he was not only redeeming that young man throughout his military career, but probably for the rest of his life.
For the rest of his life, yes. Having somebody to believe in you like that.
Exactly. Man. A lot of people use their Christian faith as an excuse to become a conscientious objector and to run away from their military responsibilities.
Right.
And this man used his Christian faith to lead from the front and actually to be more of a badass warrior.
Yeah. I love it, man. Hey, let's listen to the rest of it. And look, man, Gerald, come back in if you can. Any of you other military guys you want to come in? Look, it's only 30 of us. This is a small party, man. This is guys sitting around.
You happy with your co-workers? Sure, sir. What about the state of training? You think you're pretty darn good. If you had to go to war, would you be ready to do it?
Sure, sir.
You're confident?
Sure.
But would your howitzer get you there?
Sure will, sir.
The state of maintenance of that howitzer is good enough to get you there?
Sure, sir.
You sure of that?
Positive, sir. I'm the driver, sir.
Oh.
I just like the hat. Man, look at this brother with the hat on, man. This man shot in the face, lost both his legs. I mean, look at how cool this brother is, man. I love it, man. This is you got a major general in your face. Hey, you ready for war, son? Can you handle that? Can you drive that tank? Are you ready for war today, man? Are you sure? Yes, sir. How motivational was it for this young black soldier to be in the face of this legend? You see what I mean? How does that feel, man? Let's finish watching and we'll get back to the regular thing. I just want to finish out of respect for this man. I just appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
It was hard growing up to think, I guess, and to comprehend and to really feel that my father's life was in danger. So I guess we maybe in an attempt to understand and comprehend it, we just disregarded it. And like I say, it was just another day that he went off to work. He just happened to be gone for a year or so.
True to his parents' aspirations and his beliefs in faith and duty, Charles Rodgers is today a humble hero.
So what I have received in my life, I turn right around and give it back to the Lord, because all glory